I'm Dow Constantine. I'm the King County Executive. As executive, my first priority has been to get King County government back on sound financial footing with a budget that is sustainable over time. The second priority is to speed economic recovery and get people back to work. Both of these values are at stake with regard to the need to preserve bus service for our region. As a consequence of the statewide passage of Initiative 695 a dozen years ago, a measure conceived by Tim Eyman but rejected by the people of King County, funding for public transit was shifted from the motor vehicle excise tax to one of the most volatile sources of revenue we have, the sales tax. With the recession, of course, people stopped buying things and sales tax revenues collapsed. This chart shows in red the revenues that have been lost due to the collapse in the sales tax just since the recession started. King County has made up the difference so far by cutting costs, by drawing down reserves, by increasing fares. Metro has cut staff. We've canceled bus replacements. We've adopted operational efficiencies. We've spent down a big chunk of our reserves. Fares have been raised by 80% over the past 4 years. And our Metro bus drivers and other employees have voluntarily waived their contractual cost of living allowance this year. I thank them for their partnership, and their sacrifice will save $17 million each year. All of that has covered for nearly $400 million in lost sales taxes over the past several years. And now increased diesel prices are making matters even worse. Metro riders and Metro staff have done their part. I'll refer you to this chart again with the sort of watermelon slice of lost revenue. As you can see from that chart, the drop in actual sales tax revenues compared to what had been projected and was needed to maintain current service is far beyond what could be made up through savings or efficiencies or fare hikes. We need a long-term funding solution for transportation needs statewide, and I'm pleased to let you know that I'm working with regional leaders, with legislators, with the governor to ensure that transit is part of that long-term plan. But in the short term, we need a solution to keep buses on the road and avoid the loss of 17% of all Metro service. 17% is 600,000 hours of service, 9 million passenger trips per year, trips that reduce traffic congestion, air pollution, and support our economic recovery. 17% is the equivalent of taking all the trips specifically for peak rush hour commuters off the road. 17% is the equivalent of wiping out all weekend service in all of King County. Cutting 17% of service doesn't mean that 83% of riders are untouched. I'll refer you to the map of our current service level. It's behind our ATU leader, Paul Bachtel, here. And this shows our current system. 80% of those routes would be impacted by this 17% cut. 4 out of 5 riders would see their service degraded. 4 out of 5 people will have to walk further, or wait longer, or make an extra transfer, or stand in the aisle, or stand at the curb and watch a full bus pass them by. And this will force tens of thousands of people per day back into their cars, worsening congestion for everyone. It would directly or indirectly affect every community in King County at a time when people are hungry for more bus service. I don't hear anyone clamoring for less bus service or more congestion. That's why today I'm sending to the King County Council legislation that offers 2 clear courses of action. First, I'm urging the Council to enact a congestion reduction plan with the temporary congestion reduction charge, the one tool authorized by the state legislature to preserve bus service in King County until a long-term solution can be developed. This is a sensible solution to a serious problem that requires leadership. Punting to the ballot is an option, but it is a bad, expensive option for an interim solution, a 2-year Band-Aid. As I said, we're working on a comprehensive transportation package statewide. That's where we need to put our resources. That's what we need to take to the voters. And when we go to the voters, it should be for something long-lasting, not for a Band-Aid. Second, if the Council chooses not to act, I'm also transmitting an ordinance that begins the process of cutting 600,000 hours from Metro transit service. This is the first round, 100,000 service hours, that will go into effect in February. As you can see from the second map, the service cuts would be on these routes serving all corners of King County. But this is no time for Metro to be cutting service. Ridership in April was up 3.6% over the year before, and we expect that number to be even higher for May. Cutting bus service makes our already horrible traffic congestion even worse. Our minimum estimate is that this full cut would put 4.5 million commuters back into cars and back into traffic congestion per year. 4.5 million trips. We already have the 10th worst traffic congestion in the nation, costing us $2.1 billion annually. This will cost us more. It will cost everyone who uses the roads. On average, commuters spend 44 hours of delay in traffic every year, costing each of them on average more than $1,000 in lost fuel and lost time. We've seen how bad it gets when there's just a fender bender on I-5, or, as we saw a couple weeks ago, a one-day conference at the Seattle Center that, by the way, drew just about as many people as would be put back on our roads every single day by these cuts. We've seen how bad it gets for West Seattle with just one lane closed at the south end of the viaduct. Imagine how much worse it will be when routes are cut, trips are canceled, and all those cars are back in the gridlock. This is about your ability to get to work, to get home to your family, and it's about that whether or not you ride the bus.